everyone. Good morning, everybody. Hey, hey, good morning to all my, I gotta move this. Good morning to all our friends online watching on the Facebook. What's the new name for Facebook?
Meta.
Meta? Meta?
This is not on at all. You're doing great.
It's on, now it's on.
No, it's muted. Right. Is it muted?
Hey-oh, oh, that is loud. Wow, I get lost with my own voice. I get lost in my own eyes. I get lost with the richness and the depth and the beauty of my voice. Yeah, oh boy. Back to all our friends online. You couldn't hear me. Welcome to Neighborhood Church. Thank you for everyone who made it out and braved the winter walking down. I shoveled today the sidewalk because I'm legally obligated. In my lease, it says that I have to. My mother is running over snowbanks right now. Just acting like she's 20. I like that. So, as I was talking about some legal obligations, shoveling, and I thought of my friend Janine, who would have to come walk down, and it is official. I've talked about it with you guys. I've talked about it with as many people as possible. I hate shoveling. Is anyone pro shovel? You enjoy it? What do you enjoy about shoveling? You're outside, okay. You like the sound of shoveling? Of your arm breaking? Is that? Yeah. Well, you live close enough. Just walk over and shovel. That'd be wonderful. Thank you, Barrett. So those of you who are watching online, my name is Kris. My pronouns are he and him. He, him, his. Yes. Yeah. He, him, his. And if you want to find out more information about who we are, you can go to neighborhoodchurchmn.org. And I was looking at you suspiciously because I was trying to remember what it is. And on there you can find out more of our story. You can see the events coming up that I'm going to highlight. And you can also see our program. If you are people who love to know what's going on in this service, there's a program if you'd like. Now, you guys like the tables? Aren't the tables great? Yeah, that was Nikki. Nikki, I had them set up, and then she redid them, and then she put what do you call those things? Candles. Fake candles. Tea lights. Thank you, Barrett. My bad. Right, yes. The tea lights are on the table. And so if you're watching online, we have in-person services. We are back. We took last week off because COVID was running through several houses, including ours. I am not a fan of COVID. I can tell you that. I don't know if anyone is pro, like they want to get it. Don't. It was horrible. I was vaccinated and boosted, and I was incredibly, incredibly sick. And so do the best that you can to stay safe. And we do have a couple of announcements. If you would like to come, we have a sledding party. We are trying to do things to instead of always making people, and more people are cautious about coming to in-person services, and we understand that. And so we're trying to do more events where we're outside and doing things and trying to brave the elements where we can be together, hang out, have fun, and still be safe. And so on December 29th, Angela Hamlin, who is our one of our associate pastors who oversees neighborhood kids, is putting together a sledding party at Pinehurst. Has anyone never been sledding at Pinehurst before? All right? If we went there as kids, and I think it should be illegal to be able to sled on that hill. The amount of concussions, undiagnosed concussions at that place. My in-laws took some people sledding there. They were adults who needed more assistance, and they went down the wrong side of the hill. There's a back hill, and broke his leg. If someone could break their leg sledding, you should not allow kids just to go down. I'm really selling this event really well. If you want to come and watch people sled and cry, we'd love to have you. But we're also going to have hot cocoa, and it's December 29th at Pinehurst Park in Cloquet, and we're going to do them every month for the next 3 months, again, just as a way just to connect and hang out. And we'd love to have you join you. You can get more information online at neighborhoodchurchmn.org. Also, it is a odd time right now. It is like the holidays are fun, and we're supposed to be excited, and we're like, woo! But it's also like incredibly lonely. It is also really hard, especially COVID, like COVID Christmas. The amount of people I've talked to who are feeling overwhelmed financially, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, it's a tough time. And so we're offering two things. The first is we are putting together people to pray. Like there's this mystical power of having people pray for you. When I wasn't feeling well, I let one of my friends who's a pastor in Michigan, Ken Wilson, and he's like, "Oh, I'll put you on our prayer list." And there was something like, it was just, I don't know. Like I've been a pastor for a long time. I've been following Jesus a long time. And to have to be on this list of prayer, I'm like, he's like, yeah, we're gonna have a bunch of people. And he's like, and we have a lot of queer people who they're gonna be all these queer people are gonna be praying for your COVID. I'm like, that's awesome. I love it, and it made me feel a little bit more connected when I was feeling really alone. And I'm like, how come we don't advertise prayer at Neighborhood? We never have. We've never like, hey, we'll put you on the prayer chain. And I'm like, we should do that. And so if you have something we can pray for you about, especially during a holiday, if there is a need, if there is something going on in your life, financially or emotionally, we'd love to pray for you. We have a couple people. And if you want to be on that list, if you were like, I love praying for people that you don't have to like see. That's one question. The one person's like, do I have to like drive around to people's houses and pray for them? I'm like, no. Like we're gonna like see the names and we're going to pray. If you'd like to do that, if you would like to do it online, we'd love to have you join us. So you can find that on our Facebook page, if you'd like, or you can also find it on our events on our webpage. And then also, we're doing something called the Blue Christmas. We did it last year, and we're doing it this year, and we're doing it on winter solstice, the darkest day of the year. Around the holidays, we can be around people and notice the people who aren't there. And maybe you lost a loved one. Maybe you lost a loved one a long time ago. Maybe you lost a relationship or a friendship. We are going to have a vigil, and we are going to be lighting candles. It's going to be like online. It's going to be an online vigil, but I'm going to be here, and anyone that fills out that wants a candle lit for them, I'm going to put the name of the person on the candle. We're going to light it. I'm going to be reading some poetry. I'm going to be doing some prayers, and we're going to do it so people can drive by or look online to see the candles of the people that they love. And I've been doing this recently with my grandparents, with Grandpa Tony, Lloyd, and Marge. My grandma I never got to meet. I've been like lighting candles to them, with them, for them, and it's been very, very surprisingly impactful to me of remembering people whose story shaped the story of my parents and shaped my story. And so I want to do it for this Christmas. So if there's someone you'd like to have a candle lit for and a prayer said in their name, I would love to do that. You just can go online, neighborhoodchurchmn.org, and you can find it. You can find our Facebook page as well, and we'd fill that out. All right. Also, if you find this place helpful and inspiring, right? We still have a place. There's like 10 of us, right? We still have a place that's available. And I was just telling our friends over here that I think it's important. We have a lot of people who watch online, a lot of people listen to the podcast, but I still think it's important that we have a place where people can show up and they can find that belonging. So we can see face to face, we can encourage each other, we can hug each other, we can nux each other. So don't say that. Don't say nux each other. Okay. And so we're here. And the way we're able to stay open, honestly, is because of your generosity. We have over 30-something people who are sustaining members who give every single paycheck or month to keep the doors open. And all that money goes to help pay rent, to pay our staff, and to fund all the things that we have here. And so thank you for the people who are giving. Thank you for the people who are giving. And if you'd like to give as well, you can do that at neighborhoodchurchmn.org, or on our program, you can text give as well if you'd prefer to do that. All right, well, I'm going to welcome up Steve, and we're going to be singing some Christmas carols.
All right, yeah, I'm Steve. I'm gonna sing a couple Christmas carols with us, and feel free to sing along, stand, sit, however you feel you want to participate. And yeah, our first Christmas carol we're gonna sing together today is "Joy to the World." Joy to the world. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, and joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let all their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sound and joy, repeat the sound and joy, repeat, repeat the sound and joy. He rules the world. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness, the wonders of his love, oh, the wonders of his love, and wonders, wonders of his love. Sing joy to the world again. It's joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Sing, angels we have heard on high. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their glorious strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo. Oh, shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joy strains? What the gladsome tidings be, which inspire heavenly song of Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo. Come to Bethlehem and see him whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee Christ the Lord, the newborn King. Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo. Angels we have heard, these angels we have heard on high, singing, singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their glory strings. Gloria excelsis Deo, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Thank you so much. I'm going to invite up Kris Sauter again. Great.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Sarah, would you mind adjusting the camera since I am so much taller and better looking than Steve? I'd really appreciate that. Oh, where did the stand go, Steve? It's right back here. Gotcha. Thank you. All right. We got this ship running real tight, as you guys can tell. It's like a fine-tuned machine. All right. And so we are on our second part of our series in Advent. If you didn't listen last week, it was a banger, let me tell you. Last week we talked on winter solstice and how. Did anyone listen to it? Right? Tony, did you miss it? Yeah, just lie next time, right? Just to make me feel better next time. Yes, listen to it 4 times. Loved it. It was so good. I can't wait to listen to it again. I listened to this podcast. I read part of his book of this historian and sociologist talked about how did Christmas come to be Christmas as it is, as in the early church. Christmas wasn't with a tree. It wasn't this big feast. All the emphasis was on Resurrection Sunday, right, in the early church, because that shaped everything. And it wasn't until these group of Christians and the Celtics came together that we have this beautiful way of celebrating. And it's I don't know why I'm talking about this, that there's this theory of people, and even when I was young, of people saying, well, all these holidays came from pagans, this pagan informed. And I'm like, yeah, as it should be. It's beautiful. The word pagan is not this evil, horrible thing, right? It's this idea of something different. And what the Christians did is they came in and saw the Celtics and how they loved the earth and how they loved one another and how they celebrated, and they found purpose and meaning in being able to add value to something. Instead of saying this is bad and evil, be like us, they're willing to move and ebb and continue to evolve. And that's how we come to Christmas, is on the winter solstice, that there was on the darkest day, right? They believed that the sun would die and that there would be this new sun. And with this new sun came this new life, came new opportunity, came new warmth, a new sense of belonging, a new harvest. And that's why we have Christmas like 3 days later than the winter solstice, as a way of this is the time of the new sun that is beginning to be radiant. I love that stuff, right? Because Christmas is this sense of belonging. It is this sense of celebration in a really hard time, right? It's dark when you go to work. It's dark when you get home from work, right? And I am like, and what am I, 41? And I should be like emotionally prepared to handle these things. And every season I'm like, why do we live here? There is places that are warm all the time. But I love this place, right? I actually kind of like the struggle that it is to living up here. And it's in that time, it's in that darkness that we can find light. That there is still light in the midst of hard things. And those hard things can't overcome the light. Next week, Nikki's going to be talking about John 1 and the purpose of light and what light can do. And Advent is all about darkness and light. But what we're reading today is about singing. It is about this beautiful song by Mary. And it is still in this incredibly dark season. And it is a wild story of how the Christ came to be, of how Emmanuel came to us. It is a wild story. When we read Bible stories that we read every year over and over and over again, it's really easy just to think through, yeah, I know how this goes, and the angel comes and speaks to Mary, and then there's this and there's that, and then we get to the end, and it's all happy, and story's over. But in the story of Luke, there is this crazy, wild story. Hello, friend. Welcome. Welcome, Dylan. Nice to see you. There is this beautifully wild story. And in Luke, it starts out by Luke saying he's telling a buddy of his, Theophilus. He's like, hey, I wrote all this stuff down. I investigated from these eyewitnesses. I want you to know more about the person of Christ. So everything we're reading is the purpose is Luke is trying to inform Theophilus about who Jesus is. And how the story starts doesn't make any sense. If I was going to tell the story about the person of Christ, if I was going to tell the story how I was going to transform the history of histories, I would not start the story with a bunch of nobodies. Because that is what the book of Luke is a bunch of nobodies. You could even call them losers. In like the context of what is important, movers and shakers, these are absolutely nobodies. And actually, like we have like this high history and this beautiful picture of Mary. It doesn't even start with Mary. It starts with some guy named Zechariah. That's how the book of Luke starts. That's the story of Jesus, Zechariah. Zechariah is married to Elizabeth, and he's in the temple, and it says one time, he gets one shot to light this incense. He goes there, he lights this incense, and an angel shows up. And the angel tells him, hey, your wife is going to have a baby, and they could not have a baby. They're old, and you're going to have this baby. And he doesn't believe him. The story starts with Zechariah not believing this angel, which I don't blame him, right? It is this wild thing to be in this temple, and all of a sudden this angel shows up and says there's going to be this miracle. You're going to have a baby when you think you can't have babies. You know you can't have babies. And so the angel mutes Zechariah. Zechariah comes out. It says that hello, welcome. They know that they have this, he had this vision because they can tell maybe he had vision face, but he can't talk. And what the angel told me, you're going to have this baby that's going to reunite the Israelites back to God. It's going to bring reconciliation. You can go back and read it, between parents and kids, right? And it's going to be John. And John is going to have the Spirit of God on him, and it's going to bring this life and this transformation. It's going to be wild. Again, nobodies. Then Elizabeth gets pregnant. Then the angel moves on down, finds Mary, and shows up. Mary is scared because that's what happens when an angel shows up. You react in fear. Why? Because they're a bunch of nobodies. Why would a God come to these people? Of all the people that this God could come to, God chose these people. And who's Mary? Who's Elizabeth? These are not just nobodies. These are poor people. These are Middle Eastern occupied Jews. And who they are is a people that has been in occupation for a very long time. These are people who have been in exile. It is a story of their people, of going from God going to Abraham and saying, I'm going to make you my people, and we're going to show the whole world what it means to be human. That's essentially what God tells Abraham. You're going to be a light to the rest of the world of what it means to be human. And it goes from there, it goes to murder, it goes to genocide, it goes to exile, it goes to being owned and operated. The purpose was to make bricks for Pharaoh. Then God leads them out through Moses and gives them this beautiful law. And what happens? They still live in exile. They get this kingdom, and it's amazing. Then it gets broken down, and they go into exile. They build this beautiful temple, and it's awesome where God in heaven meets earth, and it gets burnt down. Then they build another one. They go into exile. They build another one. It gets ripped down. They go in exile. This is what it means to be the Hebrew people. They're in exile. And they're still to this day, the beauty of Judaism is they still believe that there is hope and restoration and peace, not just in when they're out of exile, but it's in the journey. It's in that struggle where you can find that beauty, you can find that connection with one another and find that connection with God. I love that. And so these are a people, right? Mary is a Middle Eastern Jew who's probably 12 or 13 years old, who is in a place of being occupied, who's in a place of being in oppression, is in a place that's just used to just being passed by. And of all the people that God can choose, he tells a story to Mary, tells a story to someone who is oppressed, tells a story who is nobody. Angel says, you're going to have a son, it's going to change absolutely everything, right? It's going to change absolutely the course of history. And so what does Mary do? She gets up, and she essentially runs away. She leaves her family, and goes to hang out with her cousin Elizabeth. It is 81 miles away from where she was, and she runs away. Why? Because that's what you do when you're scared. That's what you do when you feel hopeless. That's what you do when you feel like maybe exhilarated and excited, but also scared out of your mind. Like that is a very normal thing. And those two things are not at odds with one another. You can be scared, you can feel panicked, you can feel unsure and still feel joy and still feel hope. You can still feel that darkness, but the darkness can't overcome the light. And she walks in, sees Elizabeth, who she knew that she couldn't get pregnant, and what happens is that she sees Elizabeth is probably 6 months pregnant this time, And as soon as Mary walks in, John, Elizabeth's baby, begins to move, because that's what happens when divine love shows up. There's this wildness in all this story of this running, this moving, these angels, this light, this fear, babies jumping up and down. And then Elizabeth goes into this beautiful song. And you should go back, Luke chapter 1. It is absolutely wonderful. And out of response to that song, we come to Mary's song. And this is what I'm going to read. And I'm going to read it twice. I think about this song probably way too much. I think about this passage all the time. Because what Mary is singing is who Jesus is going to become to be. And of all the things you could think about a God, of all the things that if you were Luke and you got to tell the story to Theophilus of who this God is, of who Jesus is, why these words? And I want you to pay attention to the words. If you're watching online, I want you to pay attention to the words. What words stand out? What emotion gets brought up? What words do you like? What words don't you like? What words frustrate you? What words bring you peace? And what words bring you joy? I'm going to read it once through. I'm going to pause. I'm going to read it again. And we're going to break it down for a little bit. This is Luke chapter 1, verse 46. And I'm reading out of the Message. And Mary said, I'm bursting with good news. I'm dancing the song of my Savior God. God took one good look at me, and look what happened. I'm the most fortunate woman on earth. What God has done for me will never be forgotten. The God whose very name is holy, set apart from all others. His mercy flows in wave after wave after wave after wave on those who are in awe before him. He's bared his arms, showed his strength, scattered the bluffering braggarts. He knocked tyrants off high horses, pulled victims out of the mud. The starving poor sat down to a banquet. The callous rich were left out in the cold. He embraced his chosen child, Israel. He remembered and piled on the mercies and piled them high. It's exactly what he promised, beginning with Abraham and right up to now. Luke 1, verse 46. And Mary said, I am bursting with God news. I'm dancing the song of my Savior God. God took one good look at me, and look what happened. I'm the most fortunate woman on earth. What God has done for me will never be forgotten. The God whose very name is holy set me apart from all others. His mercy flows in wave after wave after wave after wave on those who are in awe before him. He bared his arm and showed his strength, scattered the bluffering braggarts. He knocked tyrants off the high horses, pulled victims out of the mud. The starving poor sat down to a banquet. The callous rich were left out in cold. He embraced his chosen child, Israel, remembered and piled on the mercies and piled them high. It's exactly what he promised, beginning with Abraham and right up to now. So of all the words to sing, and even the words that Luke chose to highlight in the song from what he heard, this song doesn't really make sense. If you're thinking about power, if you're thinking about God, if you're thinking about divine rule, if you think about that's the kind of God you see as coming on strong, coming down with this mission, this song is completely backwards. Because what is the song telling of? It's telling of a God who saw us, who saw people. It's telling of a God who is bringing down the high and the mighty and bringing them down and bringing those who are left out, bringing them back up. It is a story, it is a song about how God notices people in the mud. God notices the hungry and does something about it. This wild idea of the system that we help build. This on their high thrones and their high horses, the only way we can build and have that kind of structure is that we all believe the same story. And God is saying, the story that you've told of what it means to be good, the story you told of what it means to be celebrated, what it means to be successful, what it means to belong, what it means to be beautiful, the system that you built, like what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually tear it down. And the very people that system has left behind, I'm going to them, because that's the kind of God that we have. The very system that the people at the table got to decide who's in and out, who got to be celebrated, who got to eat, who got their needs met. He's saying, yeah, I'm changing that table. The very hungry now are at this banquet. They get to celebrate. They're included. And those who once walled off now are left in the cold. This is the Sermon on the Mount. This is every parable that Jesus told. This is what Jesus did from table to table, from party to party. Mary is singing this song before Jesus is even born. This is the song that she would have sang over him when he was a little boy. This is a song she would have told him over and over again as he's running around with his friends. This is who the Christ is. And who the Christ is someone who goes in the mud. It is someone who sees the forgotten people. It is someone who goes to the nobodies and reminds them, you've always been somebody. The Christmas story is not just that God came with us and lived a perfect life and died a death on the cross and resurrected so we have eternal life. If that's all it is, that is a sad story. That is not a sad story. That is not a big enough story. The Christmas story is that there is a God who saw us. There's a God who came to us. There's a God to be us, to be with us, and a God that delivers people out of the mud. And I don't know about those of you here and those online. I love this story because I need this story. It is hard out there right now. Like I said in the very beginning, the amount of people that I have talked to who are pretending to be okay, who are playing this game. I'm better than I'm not as good as I say or pretending that I am. There is people who are dealing with addictions. There is people who are dealing with financial problems. There's people who are dealing with seasonal depression, and it is hard out there. And what this story says is that God sees us. And not only does God see us, but God takes us out of the mud. So here's to my friends, if you're here or you're listening online or you're watching online, here's to the forgotten people in the room. To some degree, we probably all feel forgotten. To some degree, imagine, I'll speak for myself. I feel like a nobody. I feel like an imposter half the time. There's times where there's half the times people I feel like someone's just going to come and pull the curtain behind and say, yeah, Kris made it all up. It's like, yeah, at times I feel like I'm trying to string it together, right? Doing life, doing church, doing spirituality, doing trying to be a good person. It is hard out there. So here's to my nobodies. You are somebody, and you have a sense of belonging. You have done hard things, and we continue to do hard things. And you are not alone. That you are deeply loved, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so this Christmas, I hope that this song, I hope you think about this song as much as I think about this song. Of there's someone who sees me in the mud. There's someone who sees me when I'm hungry, and there's a place for me to belong. Now, if that's where we end, we'd be missing out on the whole plot. We'd be missing out on even the purpose of Mary's song. Because for so long, this is where the church stops. We have this interpretation, as we should. We feel inspired, and we apply the story to ourselves, which is important. We need to do that. But the thing is, we do the words of Jesus, but we also have to do the works of Jesus. Because if it just stops with how I feel and interpreting for me, but never goes to actually feeding the hungry people, if it never actually goes to, for me going to help people in the mud, then we've missed the gospel. Because there's literally people in our neighborhoods who are hungry. There's people walking through the hallways of the schools in our neighborhoods who that's their only meal they get. There is people walking around without access to health care they need for their bodies and for their mental health. There are people walking around with addictions. There's people walking around contemplating ending their life. And we can do something. We can be that light. We can be that hope if we're willing to open our eyes. If we're willing to see where the mud is in our community. If we're willing to invite and make a table that is radically inclusive so people can come and be with us. Like I said earlier, when I had COVID, someone said, I'm going to throw you on our prayer list. And that little action made me feel like I'm not alone. We can do these things. This is who we are as followers of Jesus-looking people. This is who we are as a neighborhood church. This is why we still have our services open. So you can come at any time, right? You can walk in so you can get a cup of coffee. You can see other friends. You can inspire one another. Where we go, we can continue to be this light. So look for the people in the mud. Look for the hungry. And let's do something about it together. So let's stand, and I'm going to pray. I really do appreciate you guys coming out and being with us. I really do. Those of you who got to walk down, well, some people who could walk down and people who and people who drove from Duluth and from wherever you came from, thank you for coming with us. And thank you for joining us online. Let me pray. So God, we love you, and I thank you that you saw us. And I thank you that there is this new sun and there's new life, even in the midst of the darkness, even in the midst of hard things. And I thank you that you came to a bunch of nobodies. You came to a family of people who are nobodies, outsiders, oppressed, and pushed to the margins. And that's who you said belongs. So I pray for my friends who feel as a nobody, people who feel forgotten, people who feel neglected. God, will you come to us? God, will you lift us out of that mud? God, will you come and meet those needs that we have so we can be at that table, we can be at that party, we can be at that banquet with you? That you've reminded that we've always belonged, we've always been somebody. So be with us. And I ask, God, that you would help us be able to be the church and to be the people, to go to those in the mud, to go to those who are hungry, to go to those who feel like they're marginalized and out, and we can actually do something about it. Give us wisdom, give us moxie, and give us strength, God. Help us to be the kind of church that we can include and love everyone. And we love you. In your name, amen. All right. Friends, thank you for coming. If there's anything that we can do to help or you'd like some prayer, I'm going to be sticking around for about an hour. Have a good rest of your weekend.